Hi friends, it's Carolyn Zook here with CZIC Stitch, and today we're going to talk about planning for 2022. Welcome to my channel about cross stitch. I usually talk about cross stitch. Today we're going to talk about planning for cross stitch. I am actually recording this on Zoom so that just in case I need to share my screen to show you a couple of things, maybe. If not, then it doesn't matter and you won't, hopefully, maybe not tell the difference. So we have had, at this point, 2 Zoom planning meetings so far. They have been wonderful, full of great advice and tips. I'll try to talk about those as much as I can today. But mostly I just want to kind of share with you how I plan. How I plan is not the only way to plan. It's not the right way to plan. It's just how I do it. And I will start off by saying I enjoy planning. I find I'm very goal oriented. So for me, setting goals is motivating for me. For some people, it can be very stressful to have goals, or it can be overwhelming to think about putting all their whips in an alphabetical list. So if that's you, this video might not be for you, and that's okay. You don't have to plan. If you're a stitcher who enjoys just stitching and picking up whatever they want whenever they feel like it, that's great too. There's no rules or right or wrong way to do this. But for those of you who are looking for a little more guidance on planning, I'm going to share how I plan. I did do the same video about a year ago around the same time. I'm happy to do it again. I don't know that I've really changed a whole lot how I plan, but I'm happy to share it again with you all. So first of all, I use a planner. This planner is just for stitching. So this is my 2021 planner, which is almost done. I'll show you some inside views of that in a minute. And this is my brand new, you can tell it's in a little bit better shape. You can tell the thickness of the 2 planners just from being used. It's like quite different. And this planner, if you're interested, it's only about $8 on Amazon. I have a shop, link to my storefront shop on Amazon, and it's in there. You can pick it up for yourself if you haven't already gotten it and you want $8 for 2 years worth of planning. I think is a great idea. And this is a monthly planner, and we'll take a look at the inside. Now, first of all, the way I do is I have yearly goals. So I sit down and I think about my yearly goals. These were my yearly goals for this year. And I stitch, the way I track my stitching is by time. So X number of minutes or X number of hours each day. You can track by number of stitches. You can track by number of days. You can track by, I'm going to get the roof of this house done. Or you cannot track at all. Either way, it doesn't matter. For me, I like tracking by time. That way I have an idea of how much time I can stitch on a normal day, knowing that things will come up from time to time, or there might be stretches of time when you can't actually stitch at all, just depending on life. So part of planning is also knowing that things are going to come up and your plans might change, and that's okay. So I want to show you, I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to show you my list for, if I can find it on here. Here we go. I'm going to show you my goals for 2022. And hopefully this is not overwhelming for you. But over here, so this is a list that I will print out and I will tape it into my planner. So it's basically this list here that I used for this year, except I added some more information, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. So these are all in alphabetical order here, just because how else do I organize them? I thought alphabetical order works for me. What I added this year was the designer and the fabric that I'm using. And that's because for some of the challenges, such as in the magazine monthly group, you know, it might be helpful to have this added information. I should typically know who the designer and the fabric count that I'm using is, but I don't always remember it because, as you can see, I have almost 40 whips on here. And this is all my whips. This is everything I have. One way to do this would be to pick, you know, some people I know are picking for the year 2022. They'll pick 22 whips that they're just going to focus on. So maybe you don't want all your whips on kind of a list. Maybe you just want to pick the main ones that you want to focus on for the year, whatever works for you. So I have the project title, I have the designer, the fabric, and then I have what my goal is for the year. You can see some of these are a lot They're all done by time. And yeah, some of them are a lot. So some of them are as much as 48 hours. And that's because they're on my WIPGO board. What I did for WIPGO this year is I have 6 projects on my WIPGO board, and each project is on there 4 times. And for each block that gets called, I'm going to do 12 hours of stitching. So it's essentially 12 hours times 4 times means it's going to be worked on 48 hours for the year. That makes sense. The only ones that I really have blocks or not necessarily time are the Hawk Run Hollow. So I have Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow. I'm going to finish 2 blocks this year. Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow, 2 blocks, even though it's also on my WIPGO board. But I might not, 48 hours actually might not be enough to get 2 blocks done. In fact, it probably won't be. So I'll have to fit in some extra time there. But other than that, I have hours. And how I pick those hours, I don't really have a good answer for that. I know that typically when I go into the office, I can usually get about 3 hours of stitching in each evening. And so everything you'll see is done in, can be divisible by 3 hours. So then that translates to how many days per month I need to include this. So if I wanted to do 15 hours on a Christmas celebration, I know that that will take me 5 days throughout the year to complete that goal. Okay. And some of them are more, 18 hours, Balmy Spring Day. Actually, I might be changing this. I'm not sure. So let's take a look at this one. Cardinal Cottage here, which I haven't actually started yet, but I hope to start it as soon as I'm waiting for my fabric to come in. 36 hours. And what this equates to is 3 hours each month for 12 months. So I'm just going to work on it basically 1 day, 3 hours every month. And that will get me 36 hours by the end of the day. Some of these you'll see I'm aiming for a finish. So Carolyn and Her Cats, which is a chart that Lynette Peters made for me. I want to finish that this year because it should be done by now. And so I just kind of took a look at these. I have a lot of bigger projects, but I also have some smaller ones, and I just picked what felt right to me. So I don't really have a rhyme or reason. Some of these I do want to finish, like First Snow. This is a little tiny, this is a really small chart, actually, and that should be done. This is my smallest chart, actually. So some of these are smaller, and I want to finish them. Let's look back up here. Autumn Quakers. This is another Rosewood Manor. My goal is to finish that. So my two big goals for 2022 will be to finish Autumn at Hawk Run Hollow and Autumn Quakers. If you remember from this year, 2021, my goal was Spring at Hawk Run Hollow and Spring Quakers, both of which I accomplished. So this might just give you an idea of how I set my goals. Over here, the M stands for a magazine. That means the piece is from a magazine. If I need to know that information for a challenge or something like that. And then I will print this out. This sheet might not quite match the yearly or the project goals for the year because I'm still working on it, but I print this out as well and I tape it into my planner, and each month I track how many minutes or hours I work on each piece, and then at the end of the year I have my total. And then I have a new chart or new chart for new starts as well. And I'm still playing around with the organization of this chart because I want a little more space to write in the designer and the fabric. So if you take a look, so I'll stop sharing now. So I just create these in Excel, very simple. This year, you can see this is my chart for my new starts this year. And you can see I just hand wrote it in. It's no big deal. This one was typed because these are the whips that I brought over from the previous year. And I'll continue that on. And it's been so well loved that this sheet actually has come out completely, which I don't mind. So one of the reasons why I really like this planner is because it does have a notes space in between each month. So it's just a monthly layout, which I'll show you in just a minute, but it has this notes section. And I put my my Magazine Monthly Challenge worksheet in so I can refer to that at the start of the year. I have my whip go board. You can see I didn't do quite well. I didn't even get a single whip go this year, but that's okay. We'll regroup and start again next year. And then here's my goals list. So I can highlight everything that's highlighted has been met. And then here, everything with the purple X has been accomplished. And then this is January of 2021 when we did Bringo. So I have my Bringo board here. You can see I made a lot of progress. The only one I didn't get was this one up here. That was a new start. I didn't get to that. And then we just go into our January magazine monthly challenge. And then what I write on each block is I write down here. If I show you close up, I don't know if this is going to be backwards for you or not. I'll have to check. But I just write the project I worked on and how much time I spent on it. And I do that for each day. I do mark when I have a new start or when I have a finish. I'm not sure if here's an example. Finish the bunny piece. And then these numbers in the block represent how many minutes I stitched for that week. And then over here, I have my goals for the month. So I have whip go. That was some semi-seine stitchers, which I didn't really end up doing. And then my monthly goals. And then I track my stats. So I track number of starts, number of finishes for each month, and the total time in hours. So that's just something I like to do. I like data. I find it interesting. This for me is really fun. Here's AB Singo, which we did in September. So it's handy to have these note pages. Now, we can look at a blank one that's not written in yet, so you can get an idea of how this will look. So here's January. Here's what it will look like. Okay. And then you can fill it in. I like to color code each project. I don't know why, I just like it. And so that's how this will look. So I have my whip go board in here already. And I have my January magazine monthly challenge. The theme is a new start. And the acrostic is Bringo. And once I get my Bringo board set up, I will also tape that in here as well. I probably tape it maybe over here and just fold it up. So yeah, so that's how I use the planner. I think overall, some of the tips and tricks that came out of our Zoom meetings, there's a lot of ways to plan, right? And I think it's most important to know what works for you and to also give yourself some grace and to know that things are going to come up where you can't always stick to your plans, and that's okay. Just knowing yourself the best and picking out what do you want to accomplish, and knowing this whole book, my plans are all written in pencil because things change. So you can erase it and redo it if you need to. A lot of people do like the challenge groups. There's a lot of them out there. So if that is motivating for you, you should look into the ones that you like. Some are more or less intense than others. Magazine monthly challenge, for example, for the most part, you set your own goals. Whip go, you set your own goals. So if your goal is, I'm going to work 30 minutes for each block, or my goal is just 30 minutes on this project, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. If your goal is 15 hours on each block, you can do that too. So it's really nice to be able to have that as a motivating tool. And you can certainly double dip with goals, right? So you can use a piece to count for multiple challenges if you want. You can categorize your whips. There's a lot of different ways you can be as creative as you need to be to work on this. The most important thing is to figure out what works for you, because what works for me might not work for some other people. Not everyone can get 3 hours of stitching in a night, which I certainly understand. Not everyone, some people can get in 8 hours of stitching a day. So it just really depends on your life and where you're at. And that might look different from January to December. So just being kind to yourself, thinking about what goals do you hope to accomplish? What are your big goals, right? And then how do you fit those in the smaller goals around that? And then how does that break down? What does that look like each month or each week of stitching? And so that's kind of my approach. I look at my yearly goals, what I want to accomplish. And then when I sit down to think about each month, I'll go back to my yearly goals and say, okay, what can I work on? What will fit the challenge pieces that I'm doing, or what will fit, maybe I have a lot of travel. So maybe I'll take a travel piece with me, or, I'll just kind of assess, where am I at? What has been neglected? And maybe I want to put a little more focus on, so it just depends on, again, just taking a look at it and knowing what your life is able to allow for. So I hope that is helpful. And if you have any questions about planning or organizing, let me know down below. I think, again, next year I will do another Zoom call, because I think it was really beneficial for people. So, next December, we'll do another planning Zoom call. But if there's anything I can help you with in the meantime, please feel free to reach out. Again, planning and organizing is another hobby for me. So for me, this is fun. This is not overwhelming. And I definitely recognize that for some people, this is completely overwhelming. You don't have to do it the way I do it at all. You can figure out what works for you, what feels motivating, but not overwhelming for you. For some people, doing this would take too much time, and they want to spend that time stitching instead. For me, I don't mind spending the time doing this, because for me, this is fun, and this is like a hobby to me as well. So I hope that helped. Like I said, let me know if you have any questions down below, and I am happy to answer those questions, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.